Hello, everyone. I'm going to record this short video to talk more about the logical analysis paper. I wanted to point out something that might not have gotten discussed in class, but will be important for those of you who are doing a paper about literary criticism, and that is that during 3308, we've talked a lot about textual evidence and needing to support your claims, or what would be assertions without textual evidence, with words and phrases from the text backing up your argument. The phrase textual evidence is not in asking the right questions, but a form of evidence called personal observation is. And so on the assignment sheet, hopefully you notice textual evidence is one of the terms that you can use in your paper to describe one type of evidence. We'll say that falls under personal observation, because if you see something on the page and you read it and you're giving it to your readers to observe for themselves, that is what textual evidence is. So that is going to be really important for those of you who are using an article that examines texts and makes an argument from what the text is and what it means. So this would be also valid for law types of law review articles, things like that. So that's a really important one, that textual evidence is going to fall under personal observation. Also, this paper is the most challenging one of the semester, and that's why there's going to be lots of time to talk about it in class, work on it in class. You'll meet with me. We'll have 15-minute conference times to talk about it. One of the easiest ways to do your analysis of your article and not do a summary, because that is one of the main challenges students find with this assignment, is to figure out what the conclusion is, not the end of the article, but what is the author arguing. And that might be a thesis statement, or, in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 maybe sentences somewhere in the introduction of the piece. It might be at the end, and that's where I recommend you looking, because those are stress positions in any kind of text. The beginning and the end are when writers are most clear about what their goals are. So, as your book says, if you figure out the conclusion, you should be able to figure out what the issue is, which is the question that the writer is responding to. They'll be responding to something. They didn't write into a vacuum. They'll be responding to other scholars, and those people will be who they present in their references. So figuring out those two things will really help someone who hasn't read the article as carefully as you have. The other, I think, easier way to do this type of analysis, and that's not just summary, is to categorize the types of evidence that are used in the article. And you can do this by section. You don't have to analyze your whole article. In fact, if you don't do that, that's a way that you can stay away from summary, because if you just relate the meaning of your whole article, that is what a summary is. And that's good base knowledge. It's surface knowledge. But you need to go deeper and analyze how the parts of the text are working together. So a way that I think is one of the more straightforward ways to look at this assignment is figure out what are the types of evidence that the author or authors are relying on for making their argument. And on the assignment sheet, this goes just straight from the chapters of asking the right questions. The types of evidence that the book gives you are personal experience, anecdotes, testimonials, appeals to authority, personal observation, that's textual evidence too, research studies, case examples or case studies, and analogies. Surveys and questionnaires are kind of a subset of research studies. The word bias is amongst those terms in the chapters, but it's not a type of evidence. It's just a kind of a prejudice, or it's not a position or an opinion. It's a way of leaving out evidence that you don't agree with, like a confirmation bias. So of those types of evidence, your article almost definitely relies on more than one of those. Appeals to authority will look like their citations. They might be tiny little numbers that refer to footnotes or endnotes, and in those, the author or authors are saying, these people said it, and depending on the way they write their article, they might be saying, these people said it and they're authorities, they're right, and I'm relying on their authority for you to trust my argument. That's not always the case. They may be citing people and saying, this is what they said, but they're wrong, or this is what they said and there's something wrong about the way they said it. So that's why you need to read my article, because I correct what they did wrong. And the other types of evidence, research studies, there's a big section in the book on those, of course, and ways to really carefully evaluate the quality of the research if your article relies on research studies that follow the scientific method. So that's not to say that each citation is going to be an appeal to authority, or it's definitely not going to be a research study in every case. It's some type of evidence that the authors are relying on. And so I think because they don't say very much without backing it up with evidence. That's how the peer review process weeds out the people who don't have enough evidence for their arguments. Those are finding the issue and conclusion in the introduction or the last part of the article, and analyzing what types of evidence are used. I think those are great ways to approach this assignment. You do not have to look for fallacies or cognitive biases. That can be fun, and some people think that they spot one and they feel really great when they do that. But you don't have to do that at all. These are intimidating articles, and so spotting a flaw in their logic, and there definitely maybe some, depending on who you are, but you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to you don't have to identify fallacies. That's what I wanted to say about the assignment, and I encourage you to look at example papers in the folder, the Logical Analysis Assignment folder, so that you can see how these example papers that are shown there are not just summaries, they're analyses, and sometimes they're just an analysis of a part of an article. So good luck on the assignment, and I look forward to meeting with y'all to talk about your papers in more depth individually. All right.